Excellent.
Good afternoon, Howard Wigg, Code Green Think Tech Hawaii. Do we have a blue exciting guest today? Look at this background. Could you get any more beautiful blue? He is Gregg Murphy, Vice President of Sales for Blue Planet Energy. Now, anybody who hasn't lived in a cave for the last 6, 7, 8 years knows all about Blue Planet, the legendary Hank Rogers, and then followed by Jeff Michelina, who many of us knew as president of Sierra Club. He's now the manager or managing director of Blue Planet, but now we have Blue Planet Energy. Greg, can you start off by telling us what in the world Blue Planet Energy is all about?
Well, I would love to. So, yes, as you all, many of you know it, you've talked with Hank Rogers and have heard about him and his many exploits, and it's a pretty amazing thing to have a guy like Hank Rogers look at, his number one goal is to rid the globe of carbon-based fossil fuels, especially for, producing energy. There's really no need for it. And so through the seasons, he, developed, like you mentioned, Blue Planet Foundation, and they've done it on the nonprofit side. It's incredible work there. Well, what Hank felt like is that it could move much faster. In other words, what we need to do, the solar electricity, that business is booming, it's going well. I'm talking on a global scale, right? And then, and of course, there are some challenges here locally that the businesses are facing. But then, in order to make renewables 100%, right, 100% renewable for our energy usage, we must have storage, right? And so in comes what's called the Blue Planet Research. Blue Planet Research is another arm that's solely designed to try to figure out the energy storage problem. So there's a lot of batteries, there's a lot of technologies out there. So what Hank did is he brought some really sharp scientists together. If you've never seen Blue Planet Research, the facility, I think I have a couple photos, maybe we'll see that later on down the road. But he brought in these 3 scientists and he said, figure this thing out. So they talked to the different battery manufacturers out there, they brought a lot of them in, and what they found is most of them failed. Or there might have been safety issues that Hank was not comfortable putting his name behind. So after some time, what Hank did is he reached back out to his friend over at Sony, and while he was developing his Tetris games back in the 90s, mid 90s there, 80s even, he became friends then with by playing video games with the now president of Sony. Isn't that great? So through that season, and as Sony's been making batteries for many, many years, since the mid 90s with the lithium-ion type batteries, after Fukushima hit in 2011, Sony said, we've got to get really serious about their own island. And that's when Sony came out with this new technology, much like what you see behind you now, these batteries back there that are able to power homes, businesses, complete microgrids safely, efficiently, and they're even recyclable. And that lasts much longer than the other technologies that we're used to. And that's what we do at Blue Planet Energy. We put it all together, package it with the software, and whether it's a microgrid, a residential home, or a commercial project, we can supply all those.
And this will be I assume it's not making a whole lot of money now, but it is set up as a for-profit corporation?
This branch is, yes. This branch is set up for-profit, and you're right, we're developing all these processes out because it's such a new market. And it's exciting. We have tons of opportunities. We're in Europe right now, Samoa, here in Hawaii, California. Lots of opportunities, a lot of things in the hopper. And it's an exciting time in the business, that's for sure.
Well, why don't we let the slides drive us here?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's pretty self-explanatory. There were different sizes there, so I gather the smaller sizes, the smaller capacity, the larger sizes, larger capacity.
That's right. The different capacities.
And they're also scalable. If you have something like one battery for a large home, you decide that's not enough, you can just hook 2 batteries up.
That's right.
In series, yeah.
That's right. So they're able to accommodate the needs there. So looking at the, the slides that we're seeing now, this is it's the blue ion, the features. One of the things that was important to Hank was to have a product that wasn't in development stage. He wanted to take something that's already on the shelf and to be able to offer it, because then we know it's been tested, it's been proven, and it works. And so that's how we have landed in our partnership with Sony. And the nice thing about Sony is a 10-year warranty on the system, but backed by Sony. And then the technology behind, as you can see there, is lithium iron phosphate. That's so it's
which we'll be discussing.
Talking some more of that in a minute. Got it.
Yeah. But if we could go back a couple of slides, Zuri. Yeah. This to start. Who's that gentleman standing there, and where is he standing?
That's the one and only. So that's Hank Rogers right there. And so Hank is standing in front of the Blue Planet Research. That was the energy lab I mentioned a few moments ago. And that facility is completely 100% off-grid. And so it's a beautiful facility, and even on the next slide is a picture inside of the actual lab itself. And you'll notice to the left there, the beautiful blue lights, that's the Sony blue ion battery. And then to your right there, you're looking at some fuel cells there. So not only are we looking at energy, what can be deployed today, but we're looking at the energy that can be deployed in the future, hydrogen, things like that.
Yeah, fuel cells have been under development for years and years and years, but we still ain't got that sweet spot yet.
That's right. That's right. But Hank's working on it. So.
And that'll be the ultimate clean energy.
That's right.
I mean, there's a lot of hydrogen out there.
That's right.
Think H2O. H, hydrogen. O, oxygen,
That's right.
Rather abundant material. So we were talking about size recently, and I see where here we have 65, 43, 22. What would these different applications be good for?
Sure. So the smallest one, the 7.2 kilowatt hours, that's a size of a typical wine cooler. And what its major focus is what would be called a power arbitrage, to be able to buy and sell power back. So we could absorb power at times, let's say between midnight and 5 in the morning when the power costs are low, and then we can distribute that power during the day, maybe in the morning when HECO needs it the most, when there's not much sun power being created by solar panels, and or in the evening time.
So you mentioned afternoon, but if you look now at the Hawaiian Electric or any of the neighbor islands profile, you have this rise and rise and rise for demand in the morning. Then it starts tapering around 10:30 in the morning, levels off around 11. You get into noon and 1, and boom, it looks like Pac-Man went into that demand curve. And well, why don't you discuss that Pac-Man chomp there?
That's a great way to put it there. The duck curve, or however you want to place it. But we're making so much power during the midday with all the solar electric facilities that we have operating today, which is great. But HECO has this problem, and the problem is what do I do with this excess power? I'm making it, and I have nowhere to put it.
It can't ramp down to zero with its normal power plants. There is a certain base power beneath which it cannot go, and this Pac-Man is slicing right into that base power.
That's right. That's right. And so that's where HECO is really, so it's a legitimate concern. What do I do with this excess power? Do I just shut it off? And then that's just an absolute waste of energy. So the only real option is to store it during those days when you're making it, and then to be able to deploy it at the times in the evenings or early morning times when there is no solar electricity being generated.
Well, just to pick up on that evening, we are unique in Hawaii in having an evening peak, where, say, on your typical summer on the mainland, your peak demand is going to occur, say, between 1 p.m. and 4:35 p.m. when the western sun, the afternoon sun, is at its dazzling worst, storing up all day long, and it's this perfect storm of heat buildup. And everybody and his brother, sister, uncle, aunt, and cousin has their AC going full blast. That's the mainland summer peak demand. But with our beautiful climate, traditionally we've had a pretty steady demand all through the day, and then 5 p.m. it starts going up. What in the world is going on? You know, people are leaving their offices, leaving their schools, shutting down, but what's happening is everybody is coming home and they're turning on all appliances, throw the kids into the shower, the refrigerator's going, the oven's going, all the games are going. So that's one. But what is our primary industry here in Hawaii? Starts with a T. Touris. Tourism. So what happens with all those tourists? They've been out shopping at the beach, whatever,
That's a great point.
all day.
That's right.
They come home or back to their hotel rooms when? Right about 5 p.m. All those rooms go gangbusters, and now they've got to eat, now they've got to drink. All the restaurants, the bars are going full blast, and this carries through till around 9 p.m.
That's right.
Yeah, so we have this, that is Hawaii's very unique peak. So all of which goes back to the different sizes and everything that you were talking about. During the day when Pac-Man hits, all these batteries can be stored. You're doing something useful with all of this energy now. And then when that evening peak hits, which is exactly when the sun goes down and PVs are pretty darn useless now, then you can tap in, or Hawaiian Electric can tap in to shave that peak. And I've been talking too much, but I'll just say that to meet the peak, Hawaiian Electric has to turn on inefficient power plants just to meet that peak, and then turn them off when the peak goes down. But if you can shave that peak, you can retain usage of just the most efficient power plants.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right.
But I didn't mean to go off on that. That was my own little.
You explained it really well. And I've never heard the tourism part. That actually it makes perfect sense, right? It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, at any given time, we have, I think it's something like 200,000 or maybe even more tourists in the state of Hawaii.
Incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they need their hotel rooms.
They do.
Yeah,
They do. They need their energy as well and their air conditioning.
Yeah,
That's right.
So before we launch into something even more profound, we will, believe it or not, already take a small 1-minute break. Howard Wig, Code Green, Gregg Murphy, Energy, Blue Planet Energy.
Excellent.
And we'll be back in a very, very short while.
Look forward to it.
Here's the deal. I'm Jay Fidel. I'm the host of Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, which is the Energy Policy Forum's program on Wednesday. That's how we call Wednesday Energy Wednesday. We call it Energy Wednesday every Wednesday. Are you surprised? Okay, and we try to get guys like Jim Alberts here from Hawaiian Electric who can tell us what's really going on in energy. We want to be informed. It's so important. It's the most important initiative in our state. Clean energy is major, okay? And that's why we cover it on this show. That's the deal. What do you think, Sharon?
I think that's great. That's why we're here every Wednesday from 4 to 5, and we hope you all join us so we can hear people like Jim coming on our show and co-host Ray Starley from Hawaii Energy.
Okay, Jim, you've been here today. You've seen this. You heard what she said. What do you think?
I think it's a tremendous opportunity for people to come together and talk about the issues. Oftentimes there isn't a good forum to bring these key issues out into the public, and this is a tremendous way to go about it. And the activity of this show is essential to keep talking about energy because, as you said, it's such an essential part of our lives that we need to pay attention to it and we need to think about the future.
Okay, Ray, your turn.
Well, this is a special time in the history of Hawaii where we're making some pretty radical changes in the way we use energy and generate energy. And this show is the one place you can count on coming to every Wednesday and hearing something about the latest issues that are on the table, being discussed, that will affect us all going forward. So come join us, and if you have some ideas you want to share with us about energy, give us a call and let us know. We'll put you up here and let you talk for an hour. So come see us.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Jim. It's great to be, from Think Tank's point of view, it's great to have this show. We love the show. It's our most important show. So come around and listen to us 4 to 5 on Wednesday. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Code Green, Howard Wigg, Think Tech Hawaii, Gregg Murphy, Vice President for Sales, Blue Planet Energy, which, as we discussed earlier, is a for-profit arm of Blue Planet, with which we are all familiar. We left off by your describing, we had the different sizes of battery, and you're describing the fact that arbitrage can come into effect with these batteries. What in the world is arbitrage here?
That's right. So batteries have the ability to store energy, but in order to make batteries effective, they're not smart. They just store energy. You have to tell them when to deploy, how to deploy, and in some instances even why to deploy. So what power arbitrage can do, and in different parts of so we're based here in Honolulu. We have office in California, and we're doing again work in Europe and in Samoas and places like that, South Pacific. In some of the instances is that they are able to, in those areas, we're able to deploy energy at times when, just like you mentioned, when there's a lot of energy being made by the utility, and when the energy is being made, but there's not enough demand. So in other words, people aren't home or whatever the situation might be, they're able to put power into our batteries. So we're able to absorb power, but you have to have the software that drives that, right? So our system has a software that'll bring the power in, and there's a value to that. So they can buy that power for less money. There's a benefit to the utility, right? Because that power is not going to waste, right? It's better for their generation systems. Then we're actually then on the other side, when the demand is higher, and then the utility, instead of spinning up their generators, we can literally send a little algorithm, do smart meters, all these other technologies that can send the information. We say, hey, batteries, send power back out into the grid because we need more power. That way the utilities can just have a consistent generation. It's safer, better for their generation systems, less costly to run, and we're able to deploy that energy and receive it on a millisecond notice. It's really incredible.
So even in a growth economy, and Hawaii is growing, just look at Kaka'ako, look at all the new homes on the Ewa Plain. The normal old world solution to that from a utility standpoint was build a new power plant. But now, even if we had rising demand, we wouldn't need to build a new power plant because you're going to have these little guys deployed all over the islands, and combined, they equal many, 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 many megawatts. Maybe over 100, eventually 100 megawatts, 200 megawatts, 300 megawatts.
That's right.
And that takes care of the peak demand right there.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. And the only way we can really deal with it now, when you have wires, is the only solution you have is to shut the switch off or turn it on. And that's the only option. And we know it's like city driving as opposed to highway driving. Off and on, it's not as good on your car. Where's your car down? In other words, if I'm able to get up to speed, maintain that speed, and it runs much more efficient and will make it last longer, deploy that energy when needed. And also, the other neat thing about the utilities is that in some instances, they're going to have to go, the microgrid mindset, where there's going to have to be a utility scale projects, but also on the residential scale. So to where the benefit to the utilities, they don't have to even maintain those battery systems.
Yeah,
and
it belongs to the homeowner,
right.
and he or she is responsible, just like they're responsible for their cars.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. So it's a very exciting proposition and opportunity that's being created right now. It's an emerging market, and we're glad to be a part of it.
And just to take that utility efficiency up a notch, I have my odometer set such that I know I can see my miles per gallon in my car at any given second. And when I'm going from a dead stop up, I start with about 6 miles per gallon, then 8, 10, 12, 20. Then when I'm cruising at 35, 45, whatever, just going in a straight line level, my mileage is up 50, 60 miles per gallon.
That's right.
It's that going up that really drives your mileage down. And it's the same with the utility. Each power plant has their what's called their sweet spot, where they are producing the most electricity possible for the least fuel input.
That's right.
So that's what we're aiming to do, is
Exactly.
levelize
Mhm.
the utilities load so they can hit the sweet spot and reduce their electrical consumption.
That's
Is that a
absolutely
good
right.
analogy?
No,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
great analogy,
Mhm.
and the next step really for us is developing time of use rates
Mhm,
that
mhm.
would imagine if you're a homeowner and you're charged more for electricity at night.
Mhm.
Well, first thing you're going to do is I'm going to figure out how do I not be charged for that much at night.
Mhm.
So you're going to think about, I've got these, because a lot of the energy smart appliances today, I can program to wash my dishes, to wash my clothes, to do those things in midday when there's so much power being created, it must go someplace. It will change and drive behavior in a positive way to start conserving energy. Well, it's not really conserving energy as much as utilizing it when it's not needed the most.
And then you, the consumer, are rewarded
That's
by
right.
time of use rates. For instance, the typical residential rate is now around 26 cents. It's gone way down, quote unquote, since
That's
the
right.
price of oil's gone down. But say in the morning when the power demand is ramping up, Hawaiian Electric, I'll just throw out some numbers, might charge 35 cents a kWh. But then when the photovoltaic Pac-Man hits and takes that huge bite out of demand, it might go down to 20 cents a kilowatt
That's
hour.
right.
And then when the sun sets and Pac-Man ceases to function and everybody's coming home, the rate might go up to 35, 40 cents.
That's right.
And then after 9 p.m., it might go back down to 20 cents, something like that.
That's right.
And it's a new concept here, but many mainland utilities have had time of use rate in place for a long time.
That's right.
So
That's right.
let's see, let's get back to our slides. What in the world? What are all these little orange dots and everything doing here?
This is our microgrid solution, and what it is a containerized system, and we've cut it halfway out so that you can see what it might look like inside of our Lithium-Ion system there. And this is again designed for our microgrid solutions. So, and we're deploying these throughout the South Pacific right now, specifically. And what we're able to do is we're able to put all of our batteries in there. We can size it based on whatever their exact demand is, and whatever their utility requirements are as well. And then we add air conditioning to the system if it's needed, and/or heating and cooling, depending on if we're going somewhere in Europe. That they're the temperature controlled, so they operate at their maximum efficiency. And the beauty is that in a lot of these remote islands, they're able now to, with solar, wind, hydro during the day, charge these batteries, and then at night they're able to deploy it. And it's been a phenomenal thing, because most of these other areas where we're putting these plants in, the rates are so high, and we think that 25, 35 cents is high. Boy, we've heard as high as anywhere from 50 to $1.50 a kilowatt hour.
And these
So
are
poor
not
people.
rich. These aren't rich people out there. Yeah, I've been to the South Pacific Islands.
That's right. That's right.
They have maybe half, maybe a third of our standard of living. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
So can you give any examples of what's going on out there in the South Pacific?
Well, it's really exciting. So in this Saturday, Hank and I will be going to Fiji. So the Prime Minister of Fiji invited Hank down with all the hurricanes, the hurricane situation. They're experiencing severe flooding even as we speak. How about a tough go?
Yeah.
And they have some serious energy needs and some challenges. And a lot of it right now is based on diesel generation. They've got some renewable projects, but they're clear that we need some help. And what they've seen is they've seen the value of how Hank has gone about 100% renewable mandate from the state. They're saying, help us do this, help us understand it. So we're going to Fiji, we're going to Tonga, And then we have some projects also in like American Samoa as well, to where they're saying, we want to utilize this. You guys have done it, so help us out here. And it's a very exciting time in this industry.
And I'm envisioning the villages in the South Pacific, on the South Pacific Islands. In the case of Fiji, you have your main island, but then you've got dozens and dozens.
300 islands. For Fiji.
300. Are they all inhabited or?
Not all.
Yeah, but the ones that are not, they are the least efficient
That's
of
right.
any, and probably the power is very unreliable. So
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So we're able to put in relatively small systems, maybe a containerized system there, and they've got consistent, safe power. And then through our smart grid, we're able to, let's say, if power consumption in non-critical buildings, we can, and we see that, hey, you're using a lot of power in some of the homes, we're able to pull back the power of what's called non-critical loads, and pull that back all automated. We have to call somebody, hey, go shut the switch off. We're already lose power. We can do it all automated, and then we can learn from the different ways that they use power, and then the system starts to learn, and it's self-learning. And next time it'll say, hey, when we get down to 30%, yes, shut this building off and let that one go. And it's exciting and in a simple system.
Yeah, and non-critical power, if they still, heaven forbid, make hot water with electricity, that would be the ultimate non-critical
You're right.
power. Yeah,
You're absolutely right.
Shut that thing down first. Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And then if washing machine's going, well, you can shut it off. It's no big deal. It's going to resume pretty soon.
That's right.
That's examples of non-critical loads.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah. So what do we have here on our slide here?
Sure, this is just a simple diagram of how it works, and this is lays out. Say you have solar panels up on the roof. It could be wind again. Could be various ways of generating power. That excess power then would go into the batteries and also would go into the home. The power. So let's say you're running a refrigerator during the day. But then instead of the excess power maybe going into the utility where they don't need it, we would put that excess power into the batteries.
And now we see the battery next to
in
the
the
car.
garage.
Yeah.
Yep, the little blue light there in the garage. So that's how we're able to store that power, and then it's distributed then throughout the home in the evening time. And then the next morning, it all happens all over again. So that's how, if people when we get to a really effective time of use rate, people will be able to deploy power from their batteries to use throughout their home, and literally a home can now be 100% renewable.
Yeah.
Even if you have solar panels up on your roof today, we are still operating off of generators at night. And there's a lot of people out there going, I would really prefer to know that I'm making enough power from the sun, and I would like to use all that power from the sun in my home in the evening and early morning time. As the sun comes back up, then I have that opportunity there to utilize it.
So somehow the phrase net zero energy comes to mind.
It does.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Net zero energy would describe a home that is not hooked up to the grid. It's totally self-sufficient.
That's right.
Yeah. So on that cheery note, we need to take another break. Think Tech Hawaii, Code Green, back in a minute.
Aloha, namaskar, and hello. My name is Anu Hittel, and I host a show, Climate Change Beyond Outrage. In it, we go beyond outrage to look at solutions to climate problems facing people, nations, and the world. Join me every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Hawaii Standard Time. See you then.
Aloha, my name is Jeff James, and I'd like to invite you to watch my show, The Military in Hawaii. It'll be shown every Friday at 11 a.m. here on thinktech.com. Aloha.
Aloha! How you doing? It's me, Angus McTech, wishing you to welcome and join us to see us on Hibachi Talk on Think Tech Hawaii. Join my co-hosts, Gordo the Tech Czar and Andrew the Security Guy, every Friday from 1300 to 1345. We look forward to seeing you. We'll talk tech and we'll have some wee bit of fun. And remember, let your wing gang free wherever you be. Aloha!
Back again, Howard Wig, Code Green. My guest today is Gregg Murphy, Vice President for Sales Blue Hawaii Energy. And we've got a lot of slides to cover and not much time to do it in. Why don't we talk about software in the batteries now? What in the world? I mean, battery, you put the energy in, take it out. What do you need software for?
That's right. So that's right. So in the slide that you can see now, this is for a typical. We do a lot of homes, people that are off grid, maybe too far for utilities to run power to. So what they'll do is have a software system that they're able to see how much power is the sun am I generating from the sun, how much is my home consuming, and then how much battery power do I have in my batteries. Then instead of saying, well, you've got 15 kilowatt hours, well, most folks don't know what that means. So what we're doing, we're simplifying and say that at your current rate, you've got about 12 hours of energy storage left. So
or let's say it's 5 hours and it's 9 o'clock at night, and you say, wait a minute, the sun doesn't come up for another 12 hours. What am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to, what can we shut off here?
Exactly. And so it enables the homeowner, business owner to really understand their energy usage. And so right now, there's really no smart way to measure consumption. And a lot of the solar equipment out there shows you how much power is coming in, but we don't know what's going out and to what it's going out to. So this will really help drive that understanding and help people know where their power is going.
Now, where the power is going, say within a home, could they actually be reminded that their dishwasher is going at the moment or their clothes washer is going at the moment?
That technology does exist, and as we start to move down the road, our software has many inputs. The technology, we're just skimming the surface, and so we're going to be able to cycle up and down automatically, refrigerators, all of those things. And let's say if a refrigerator doesn't turn on for 5 minutes because other important loads are turning on, and then you tell it to turn on at its best time. It's saving money, it's going to make such a huge difference there.
Then we have here? We have, well, demand, there's time of use, but this is demand charge management.
That's right. And so we've talked about time of use a little bit, but demand charging is really where you'll have on the commercial scale, folks will have, let's say their electric bill is pretty much zeroed out, meaning that they've got enough solar panels on the roof that can take care of their energy usage at the time. But then what happens, they have these big chillers that kick on, and when they kick these big chillers, big, HECO then has to crank it up a bit more as well, and when they crank it up, there's a charge for that, a demand charge. So if I'm able to deploy some energy during that time, then
and have the battery ramp up and take care of that peak.
That's right. It would sense the moment that we're able to do all that right from, let's say, the big air conditioning system. We're able to measure it, and it would deploy within a millisecond.
And actually, when the system is going to come on.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So it makes life a lot easier for the utility. Also, it doesn't have to go ramping up and down, which it's not equipped to do.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. And then we have there from our microgrid operations what we're showing there, and we've discussed a little bit about that. I can control critical, non-critical loads as needed. And especially if you look at it from a situation of let's say a neighborhood of 200 homes, where you might have a community center, and at the community center they might have a pool pump and the hot tubs and all these things. I'm able to then cycle some of those off because I know I need to take care of these 200 homes first, as an example, and that's all automated. It's pretty neat stuff.
And that we've talked about microgrids a lot. So you just gave an example of a grid that feeds 200 homes plus the community center.
That's right.
That's right. And then of course a larger utility would handle many microgrids.
That's right.
So, and here we have
our
renewable energy smoothing.
So, and you alluded to this a little bit. So, we have these solar panels up on the many rooftops or solar farms, and as cloud cover comes over, guess what the utility has to do? Has to crank it up again, right? And so, what if instead of cranking up the generator, we can just deploy power in a smart, simple way, and then it would just at a flip of a switch, it would stop deploying when the sun comes back, and it could just do that all day long. So it helps renewable energy smoothing, we call it.
Yeah, I remember watching the performance of a smallish photovoltaic panel. Oh, this is BIA, Building Industry Association headquarters. It was a nice sunny day, and 30 kW were being produced, and all of a sudden it went down to 18. I said, what happened? I looked out the window, a cloud came by.
That's right.
Cloud passed, back up to 30.
up
So
again.
perfect example. So what else do we have in the way of frequency regulation?
That's right.
Clean power.
The clean power. So we're able to, our system is software-driven sine waves. So we can make certain that the power that is being deployed out of our energy storage system is clean. And when you have a sine wave that is a perfect sine wave, it's not chopped up and beat up, and when they have to power their generators off and on, that happens. And so if I can offer a consistent sine wave, the equipment will last longer, it'll run more efficiently, and thereby be more cost effective in the long term to operate that system.
And there are certain technologies that are very sensitive to consistent sine waves. The best example maybe is computers.
That's right.
You
That's
don't
fair.
want to force your computer on and off, on and off.
That's right.
Very bad for a computer, very bad for person operating computer.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. So another super efficient technology there. And what in the world? Lithium-ion battery cathode comparison. Well, let me start off by the fact that there's the neighborhood of Kahuku. There's wind farm in Kahuku, and batteries were stored in this great big storage shed. And have you been around long enough to?
Yes, I have.
Yes. So that's an example. What happened was the storage shed just went up in flames, and I talked to the deputy fire chief, and he said that thing is so dangerous, we can't
That's right.
pour water on it. We just have to sit, let it burn out, and make sure the fire doesn't spread to neighboring brush or whatever.
That's right, and
Yeah.
that is a very real concern. And so what is called is when that happens is, let's say it's not even the batteries that catch fire. It can be an external fire. The building catches on fire. Well, when those batteries catch on fire, there's a thing that happens, a reaction called in a thermal runaway, where the chemistry starts to react within itself, and there's no way of stopping it. And literally, like the fire department had to do for the safety of it, they just had to back away. Well, that was a major concern of Hank's. When he's thinking about putting energy storage facilities in people's homes, in these microgrids, it was a concern of his. So the different types of technologies out there is the lithium iron phosphate, which is a cool running technology. It's cooler, much more effective than what you have is called the lithium-ion cobalt. Cobalt is the same material that you would have, like, let's say, in your cell phone. So you know that your cell phone, it gets hot. But what does it also have? It's lightweight. It packs a whole lot of power, but also the battery doesn't last as long. So lithium iron phosphate is a little larger, and because it's a little larger, it really doesn't make sense to put it in mobile devices or in cars, so to speak. That's why the cobalt technology has a place. It is an incredible place because it's a great technology, but in stationary power, it's not the best solution.
Weight and size are not that critical.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
absolutely right. So we see that they'll also, because there's not as much heat being created, we know that in any electrical device, the more heat that's created, then the faster it
Yeah.
breaks down. So
And,
we can see
in many cases, you have to cool it. There's additional energy and so
all
forth.
of that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So these are the lithium iron phosphate, the Sony blue ion batteries. We don't have those issues as we see here on the picture. That is the lithium ion cobalt cathodes, and these are the hoverboards we heard about that were catching on fire during the holiday season. And it's and again, they pack a lot of power, but not necessarily the safest battery for every
and in this case,
situation.
it's in real proximity to real human beings.
That's right.
I mean, they're on top of these hoverboards.
That's
Yeah.
right. But the nice thing is they can run away. right? If it's in your home, it makes it a little
Yeah.
bit more
Yeah.
difficult
Yeah.
there to be able to do that as well. We've even seen the aviation industry.
Well, speaking of which, what do we see here?
That's the
I
same
see the
thing.
word Boeing.
That's
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
Boeing is there's a gentleman by the name of Cosmin Laszlo. He's a Boeing engineer. And this was in Japan Airlines flight, and you may have recalled that
Yep,
some
I do.
years back, where they had this thermal runaway issue on the plane. And
That's not a very pleasant place to have a thermal runaway.
it's really
Yeah,
not.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
really not. And so, of course, lithium iron phosphate would have been safer, but it wasn't available at the time. So there'll be some switches
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
technology
yeah,
they
yeah.
use for safety. Imagine submarine opportunities
Yes,
there as
yes,
well.
yes.
Bunch of opportunities for this in a safer, more effective manner.
Yeah. And speaking of safer and cooler, I believe our next slide is going to
Oh,
show us how we keep lithium iron cool.
That's right.
You have a venting.
it's a venting mechanism. And so the batteries, there was actually a test while we were at Sony, and they actually punctured both batteries to show us. And when they punctured the lithium-ion cobalt battery, it literally caught on fire. And it was a pretty, it was an explosion. And they're saying, now imagine that when you have maybe 700 of them together, it's gonna just keep going. And with this type of technology, you can see the size is a little bit bigger, right, of our technology, but it has this venting safety mechanism that would allow any pressure to vent but not catch on fire, because it has an automatic system in there that would shut everything down to where you don't run into those types of
And
concerns.
when you have any safety issue in any technology, people are naturally going to be a little bit
That's right.
apprehensive, and you're certainly, it's going to be an impedance to marketing.
That's
also.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right.
And we're running out of time, so we have a residence in Kona. I could never
Right.
guess where that might be. but, yeah.
Yep, you can see that one. That's
Yeah.
in the research lab. That's been off grid since 2013. System has been performing beautifully out there. I was just there this weekend, and it's phenomenal. We have people coming from all over the world to see it.
I would imagine,
And
yeah.
it's amazing to see that.
And I think we have another shot of it. Yeah. What's the blue and what's the non-blue here? Yeah.
So what we have here, those shiny devices on the left side, this is an off-grid home with a large energy capacity. We're actually the system is in a pool room with 3 pool pumps and hot tubs and you name it, and it's completely off-grid, and so it has a much larger power demand than you would ever see in most homes. But they've been off-grid since 2014, operating flawlessly, and it just shows folks how they can, how beautiful they are and how simple they are. It looks like really cool stereo equipment if you look at it there.
And finally, we've got a home here on Oahu.
That's right. That's actually Hank's home there.
Oh,
That's,
okay.
Yep, that's been off grid since July 4th, where he declared his energy independence there, which is exciting there. And then this
is exciting.
the
Wow.
Mars habitat. It's this facility. We have 20 kilowatt hours of our blue ion system up there operating, and we literally look at it like this: if it's safe enough for Mars habitat, and NASA now has control of it, it's probably safe enough for your home.
Yep,
And they're
yep.
simulating life on Mars up there, and they literally just put in these wannabe astronauts up there for a year.
Wow.
They've been in there for 6 months, and they just stress the heck out of these guys simulating life up on Mars. It's amazing.
And on that very cheery note, we do need to leave this segment of Code Green Hawaii Think Tech. Mr. Gregg Martin, Vice President of Sales for Blue Planet Energy. Thank you so much, Greg. We just were getting warmed up, and we've got to leave.
That's A-okay. I'd be happy to come on again.
Yeah, because this...